Hello, everybody. Tonight we're going to be talking about the tithe according to the Hebrew Scriptures, aka Old Testament. Question is, if the church has tossed out the law, why are they still dipping into the areas that they want to keep? So sit tight. We'll be discussing this in great detail. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome to Knock Talk. I am your host, William Hall, broadcasting live out of Kingsland, Texas, USA, with another episode of TNT, the Twisted New Testament, with Rabbi Stuart Federow from Houston, Texas. And this is our lucky episode number. Actually, it's not the episode number that's important right now. Actually, this is the show number, right? As of tonight, this will make To Knock Talk's official 500th video. 500 videos.
That's cool. I'm your 500th show.
You are my 500th show.
That's very cool.
On the show. So that's really cool, man. That's really cool. So welcome all you viewers out there. Rabbi, you keep track of the YouTube channel. I'm going to keep track of all of the software, and then we'll kind of follow suit. Phone lines will stay closed for now until we figure out. Anyway, not important. Important is we have a topic picked out for tonight, and so actually we were kind of just trying to toss up an idea. We've talked about so many things, just about everything imaginable that you could think of that we could cover relating the New Testament in all of our, I think this is our show, I think might be number 89, yours and mine, 88, 89 episodes, and we literally...
Yeah, but who's counting?
Right. And so this, I asked my wife, I said, what would be a good topic? And she said, I said, well, we've always wondered why it was that the church, if they really don't believe in the law, which what we just stated, then why is it that they're actually dipping into that part? And so not only that, but I mean, the other topics regarding this, who are the tithes according to the law? I mean, if you're going to do something according to the law, you should do it according to the law, right? That's what you would think. So what does the law state about the tithe? Who does the tithe belong to? Who is it intended for? Right? And just as many other areas of this that you want to cover, we'll actually discuss this tonight. So I'm glad you all tuned in. Thank you. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, turn on notifications. Yeah. Same with Rabbi. Yeah, if you're a friend of his, you need to follow him on Facebook. So he's pretty popular, though. He may not have any more room for more friends, especially all the wackos in his neighborhood. I didn't say that out loud.
More than you know. More than you know.
Oh, boy. Yeah, don't send me any hate mail. I was just joking. So I have plenty of wackos that I know in my life, that's for sure. None around here, thank God. All right, cool. So we'll kick this thing off. Are you watching us on YouTube, Rabbi, on a side note?
Yes.
Good. So we're live. Everything looks good?
I guess so, yeah.
Good.
But you are so much more clear than I am. I don't know what my
I hear you.
camera problem is, but you're
video
HD quality, and I don't know what.
I don't know, man. I think you look great. Even from what I see right now, it looks good to me. Maybe it's just an illustration of visual that you're seeing from your side on your TV, on your monitor. So anyway, let's kick this thing off. According to the Hebrew Scriptures, aka Old Testament, tell us the laws roughly. Nothing too critical, just the basic laws regarding the tithe. Who is for? What's the purpose?
It's a number of tithes.
Oops.
It's over like a 3-year cycle. It involves giving the tithe to the Levites in the temple for the use, basically, of the Kohanim, of the priests in the temple and the Levites in the temple.
Right.
As their, I guess the modern term we would use would be the livelihood. But the problem, of course, obviously, is that there is no temple. Mm-hmm. Okay, and for various reasons in Jewish history, especially after things like the Holocaust and whatever, a family may have a tradition that they are Kohanim priests, or a family may have a tradition that they are Levites, but we don't know whether or not that's actually true. And although it's much more recent, okay, we have DNA studies that actually show about 80, 90%, 80, I forgot what percentage of those whose families claim to be Levites, they actually are. Okay, they really do have a part of the X chromosome that goes back through father to one person who lived about 3,000 years ago, like Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's pretty cool. And same percentage with those families who are who have a claim that they're Kohanim, that they're priests.
Okay, real quick, this is totally off course, and so stay back, keep that point, because we're going to pick right back up on it. For those of you who don't know, on your screen right now, and the little icon next to Rabbi's name is a book he's got, Judaism and Christianity at Contrast. A lot of people are watching that we got a lot of new viewers tuning in, and they're kind of new to this whole realm of possibility that the New Testament may not be accurate. This book that's on your screen right now is actually a really great resource, very easy read and easy access. You get it from Amazon.com. You can go to whatjewsbelieve.org and find it there. You also have Jewish Mission Control app that you can get on your phone, at least on Apple for now, maybe Android again soon. It's the other way around.
Android, and it's on Apple now too.
Oh yeah, it's been fixed finally, dude. That is such a great app. Go to What Jews Believe.
It went down for a while because I forgot to pay the $99 fee to have your apps on Apple. So
okay, so with that said, most of you out there, I promise you probably don't have it, because if you did, you'd be talking about it. It's called Jewish Mission Control. Go to your app store or whatever, the iTunes store, I guess. I don't know what Apple is.
Yes,
but anyway,
iTunes.
Right? And look for Jewish Mission Control. It's really cool because it's just on your screen. It'll have just buttons that you can push. So why don't they accept Jesus? What's wrong with blood sacrifices? I'm making these topics up, but you just push on them and it'll immediately pop up all this brilliant information. So it's very, very...
Well, it's also the basic same information that you can find on whatjewsbelieve.org, whatjewsbelieve.org.
So it's like that in a phone app.
Yes.
Okay, great. So that address is actually on your screen right now as well. So write that down. Go to it, because I'm telling you, it's absolutely brilliant to have with you. And the book's good. Rabbi Federow's book is like a mini dynamite-packed version of what Rabbi Singer's massive 2-volume set covers in a super condensed module, so to speak, but more different information.
Compare the two. He is he is light years above and away over mine. Mine is just simple, basic, why Jews believe what we believe, especially in contrast with the most basic elements of Christian theology.
But that's important, though. I mean, having that
Delane
view.
asked the question, do apps work on PCs? These aren't...
You don't need the app for your PC. Like Rabbi said, Delane, just go to whatjewsbelieve.org. That website, that technically is the app from your desktop. The app is actually,
encapsulated material. By the way, since we're now talking about apps and things, I would also like to urge everybody watching to please make donations to Tanakh Talk.
Yes, please. That would be lovely. It would sure help.
Yes. Go to TanakhTalk.com.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Is that TanakhTalk.com correct?
Yes. Yeah, that is correct. TanakhTalk.com.
And make the donation and help William do everything that he's doing. Not just here on TNT, but also for everybody whose videos he puts, on his shows, all the people who he puts on his shows.
It really is helpful. There's
reach into your wallet. Speaking of tzedakah, speaking of tithing, speaking of money, right. Speaking of donations. Hello,
I thought you were going to say something.
The new form of
that's funny.
Skype just blank us out.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm still here.
Yes,
so,
well,
right on.
Cool. And speaking of donations and tithes and everything else, they should be donating heavily to Tanakh Talk.
Well, some people, I have had a few people ask me, what does it actually go towards? And so, like right now, the new building, and it will take maybe
45
seconds.
Are you talking about?
The new studio building, which I'm not in yet, but I'm actually in the middle of modifying so it can be used as a studio. It's one of those rent-to-own type buildings, and so the payments are like $500 a month, and the full payout on it is going to be like $23,000. The payout, if I paid cash, it's only like 12,000. So it's like it's more than double. Anyway, make a long story short, there's donations that are coming in monthly. I really appreciate all those viewers out there, and there's just about enough to kind of keep my head from sinking underwater. So the more you guys send in, the quicker I can pay the building off and free up those funds for other things that are more necessary. So, but thank you all for there's so many of you out there who have reached out and actually been helping out, and the monthly stuff is really helpful. And a lot of people don't realize this, but I've got probably about 15 people or so who will give like $5 a month, and but it's every month, and even though it's only $5, that stuff adds up. And if it's something where there are a lot of people are doing it, and it doesn't cost, I mean, I waste more than that on a cup of coffee, and every single day, So and yes, I also donate to Tanakh Talk very, very heavily. So with that said, thank you all, and thank you for considering it, Rabbi. Thank you for bringing it up. I really appreciate it. So, okay, carrying on the tithe. So what is it? I don't really know how to approach it.
The point is that the way the tithes were done in the biblical period can no longer be done because the temple isn't standing, okay, and the concepts of giving to the priests and to the Levites is also difficult to do. But there's a concept from the Jewish perspective, okay, which is a tithe for the poor, I guess you'd call it, which is basically tzedakah. Okay, tzedakah means righteousness, doing the right thing. Often mistranslated as charity, but it doesn't mean charity. Charity is a totally different concept than tzedakah. Tzedakah is doing what's right because it's right. Tzedakah has a concept of you are commanded by God to do it, so you don't have a choice.
Right.
It's no different a commandment than not eating pig, okay, not eating shellfish. It's a commandment.
Okay.
And as such, we don't, this is what you've got to do.
So don't eat shellfish and don't be selfish.
Yes, thank you. Reminds me of a poem, but at any rate.
Okay.
So the point is that we cannot do the biblical tithe as it was described in the biblical passages. Okay, and I don't think it's really technically anywhere in Genesis, but I'm pretty sure it's in the other 4 books of the Torah. Certainly Leviticus, Deuteronomy. No, I'm pretty sure it's in all of them, all but Genesis. But the point is that you can't do them anymore. But to say that we can't do those biblical tithes means that we're not obligated to give to the poor is equally erroneous, is equally wrong.
Right.
So there's a concept in Judaism of Maser Ksafim, which is the tithe for the poor, for the needy, for the, and, another thing that I have to point out is that, because your topic is the church stealing tithes.
Mm-hmm, right.
Okay, and William, you may not like my answer.
I already know what it's going to be.
Well, that's true, but okay, when you go to join a synagogue, the synagogue does not say, give us 10%.
Right.
The synagogue will usually say, give us 2%. Okay, and remember, that's the asking price. Okay, but they're not going to say, give us the 10% like a tithe. Churches will say that they have replaced the temple, they are the temple, and therefore give them the tithe. That's not how Judaism operates. Each family, each person is obligated to give 10% of their income, however high or however low it is. And the higher the income, actually you're supposed to give as high as 20%. There's nothing righteous, nothing good about giving away all your money, so now you have to receive, donations too.
Right. There's
a limit to what is demanded by tzedakah. Okay. The synagogue is only going to ask for 2% for the synagogue. The other 8% is up to the family or the individual to determine by themselves to whom they want to give that, for lack of a better term, charitable donation, that tzedakah. Tzedakah money. Tzedakah money has a number of interesting things in Judaism, which I don't think you'll find again in Christianity, which may come from folk religion, William. It may come from any number of sources. But for example, hey, I just heard Joe Schmo was given a clean bill of health, and he's passed his, his most recent search for cancer. Oh, I need to put money in the pishka. What's a pishka? Pishka is a Yiddish term which basically means the tzedakah box. Okay. Again, charity is not tzedakah; it's totally different. But it is it's the charity box, Or hey, William, I notice your birthday is coming up at some point. What's the date of your birthday, William?
You want me to answer that? You want me to answer that? It's February 32nd.
So February. So, hey, William's birthday's coming up. I'm going to give money to tzedakah in honor of William's birthday.
Right.
A great place to give that tzedakah, by the way, is the building of your building. But the point is...
And that's January 4th, by the way. I love red Lamborghinis. Just saying.
Yeah, it's like $500 just for an oil change. All right, so the point is that Pushka and Pishka is like Kugel and Kegel, James Norse. It is what part of Europe your background's from. At any rate, the point is that another thing you need to understand is that when Jews give money to tzedakah, oftentimes they are giving in multiples of 18. So $18, $36, $54.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. That makes a lot of sense to me now.
Well, the reason is because 18 numerically, okay, let's say English. Another name for a taxi is a cab. Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
So if A is 1 and B is 2 and C is 3 and D is 4 and E, whatever, then the numerical value of the word cab is 6. Because C is 3, A is 1, B is 2.
Yeah.
3 plus 1 plus 2 is 6.
So numerically, Chai is 18, right?
Exactly. Because the nice. Yud is 10 and the Chet is 8.
And for those of you who don't know any Hebrew, Chai is a very, very one of the most... If you look
mistranslated, misunderstood words, I'm jumping in before you say something.
Actually, that's good. I wasn't going to bring that up. In fact, you can elaborate on that. But when I go to look for like Hebrew letters, like on a pendant or something, the Chet Yud is very most popular things I've seen outside of the couple other symbols. But that numeric value of that is 18.
I mean, living or alive. Chai is an adjective.
Gotcha.
It is a describer. It's not. Chai does.
Well, let's see here. Poor network connection. Severed. Hold on. The connection was severed to the flash server. Check your connection with the internet and try again. That's weird. This new internet is supposed to be kicking it. Wow, everything stopped, it looks like. Now it shows we're back up online again, but it's not recording the hard drive. So I think we're actually still going. So we'll just keep on recording. And
all right, just real quick.
Yep.
Numerical value of Chai is 18.
Right. And
to give like a person a birthday gift of $18, shall we say, is like giving them life.
Right, gotcha.
Okay, giving them, living to go on. I would argue, although I would love to study it, but I would be willing to bet, because I have not looked to see if this is true, that the chais around the neck, the jewelry based on the chai, only became popular after the Holocaust. That 100 years ago, people didn't wear jewelry of a chai, or 75 years ago, that it took probably into the early 60s or late 50s before that became popularized jewelry.
Right. That's interesting.
Because it's the people of Israel are still alive. We're living.
Right.
We're alive and kicking, thank God, literally.
Amen.
So, again, how Jews handle money and how we talk about money and how we think about money is very, different, I think, than how Christianity or the church handles money. Remember something. You can't pass the plate at a synagogue because you're not supposed to handle money on the Sabbath.
Right. Good
So
point.
you can't pass the plate.
Yep.
So people who they get weirded out if they have to go to a synagogue because they think they'll pass the plate, there's no passing the plate. That's why we have a due structure. And people give what I said before. They're asked to give 2% of their gross income. Okay. And the 8% out of the 10%, is up to the individual or family to give by themselves, to choose themselves, what organization or 501c3 or whatever to give it to. So, but your question, is the church stealing tithes? Okay. And when you first came up with the title, William, I understand what you're saying. Okay. That tithes were not meant for a church or even a synagogue. As far as that goes, they were meant for the Kohanim, the priesthood, and the temple. The Kohanim, the priesthood, the Levites in the temple. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's not meant for a church, and that's true. But I hate to tell you, I hate to say this because, this is kind of counter what you and I both stand for. Okay. But the church isn't using the money by and large. We're not all, not every minister has 3 or 4 jets and they say that they need a 4th one. Who was that? I forgot his name. He was recently on TV for that. They really, churches and ministers really do use the tithe that they're calling it tithe. Okay. And they really do use it for missions and helping people in the world. So, I understand what you're saying is the church stealing the tithe, but you can't ignore what they do with it by and large isn't going to be lining their own pockets with it. They still have ministries to fund. So
interesting. So my general thought.
Thank you. James North sees my point.
Yeah,
Catholics do a lot, collect a lot of money, and charities do a lot to help the poor in New York City. Give credit to them regardless. Thank you, James. That's all I'm saying.
That's cool. My view on the church issue was the question first came up, I guess, whenever we switched from going from Christianity to the Messianic movement, and that's kind of how that word phrase kind of came into play at that point. But realistically, I think it's more like the church is using the whole plagiarism thing to insist that the tithe was always intended for them, and even though they're not stealing the tithe, because the people who are coming to them wouldn't be giving tzedakah to Jewish people anyway. So but they are using that as a tool to get money from people. You know what I mean? So if you look at it that way, that's still kind of a real slim shady. So okay, so I had a stream issue a minute ago. I'm not really sure why. I'm communicating with my internet provider to find out what's going on. Lately they've been like superior, like super internet. So we'll see what happens. So what are you typing up, sir?
Someone made the comment about you can always donate to rabbis. Well, not exactly. Most rabbis that I know of every stripe and whatever have what's called a charity fund or a rabbi's discretionary fund, and that's really where they're putting the money usually. It depends on their financial state. It depends on, all sorts of things. I will tell you that if I'm honored enough to do a wedding and they choose to give me a donation because of my financial situation, I will put it in my pocket.
Nice.
Sometimes the money they don't give to me, they give directly to the discretionary fund.
Right.
Okay. If you're a huge congregation with a huge income, then, you'll almost always put it in a discretionary fund. And from the discretionary fund, they'll pay for kids going to camps, Jewish camps. They'll pay for, families who have needs.
Right.
In my congregation, we had about a half a dozen families completely wiped out from the hurricane, from Harvey.
Wow.
Like nothing left.
Right.
So thank God it wasn't worse.
Sure.
But I've helped not all of them, but many of them, who weren't insured or whatever, to get through until money started coming in from elsewhere. So, but
That's cool.
At any rate.
Right on.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, all right. So, where do we go from here? So, we've got this whole idea. Let's merge into something here. So how is it that is there something? I'm trying to figure out even how to ask it. So, the church, for the most part, unless they have abandoned the title Christianity and have adopted Messianic Judaism, which is actually still Christianity with a different package, they still pretty much all throw out the law, the law of Moses, even though most of them have no idea what the laws even state. They just said we don't subscribe to that.
Right.
So, but where exactly is the tithe found? It's actually found in the commandments in the Torah. So the one thing that they've thrown out. So how is it, or why is it? Do you suspect that they? Well, actually, the why seems to be pretty obvious. It's a way.
I was thinking that exactly.
Yeah, right. That's pretty
the
obvious.
why is pretty obvious because
if every church, put it this way, if every church decided to turn honest about this, and instead of saying bring us your tithes, they would and they abandoned that term altogether, and they would say if you have any offerings to give us, first of all, their income would be cut probably by 80%, because most of the people, now I'm making that number up, I'm assuming, because I know that all the time that I went to church, and even as a Messianic, I gave at least 10% of everything I ever made, and thousands upon thousands of dollars, because it was mandatory. And the rule was tithes and offerings. So tithe at least 10%, and anything above 10% is an offering, right? So I did both, but tithing was primary. I didn't make an offering and not do the tithe, because you weren't allowed to do that. So with that said, if I didn't have to tithe and I only was asked for my offering, honestly, I would have given a lot less, because number one, I didn't have the money to give, but I always did anyway because I was just trying to be obedient. So what happens now? So let's say a pastor's watching this right now, and he says, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that. I didn't know it was for the Levite, really." So what happens now to him whenever he says, "Well, maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll start abandoning the whole tithing thing and just ask for offerings." I mean, it's a tough place. It's a tough place to be, and here's the reason why too. I think, Rabbi, so many people that I've talked to who are leaders in the church, they're actually stuck. Not theologically, because sometimes when I talk to them, you can see a light come on, but they're stuck financially because they're getting paid salary to do what they do, and they don't even have a full-time job. That is their full-time job. So if they say, well, I can't do this anymore, well, they basically, if they have house payments, they have car payments, and all this other stuff, they're going to wind up like being homeless because they can't pay their mortgage, can't pay their car payment, because the only income they have is coming from the church. And so a lot of people are literally stuck. They can't leave. What would a person do in a scenario like that? What would you do if you were a pastor and you said, "Man, they're right. I've got to stop teaching this stuff," but you had a house payment, and your church was financing all this? What do you think that your natural reaction would be in a situation where money pressures was so high and the church was providing all of it for you?
Right. Well, if you're asking me, obviously you would stop giving it.
Oh no, I'm not talking about me as a giver. I'm talking about a person who's actually like an actual person who works for the church, and that person who's getting paid.
And they would stop receiving it. What would happen is look, people tend to take the easy way out. Electricity finds the fastest way to the ground, whatever that's, there's a name for that, and people tend to take the easy way out.
Right.
And if they are, so what would happen is that they wouldn't get their salary anymore. Somebody up on our chat made the statement that maybe they should just call it something else. Call it membership dues.
Yeah, and be honest about it, because that's realistically that's
basically
what
it is.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. You belong to the church. This is what you owe or pay to the church, and it's your membership. It's the same thing.
Right.
But they call it a tithe because they want the image of people's mind to be 10%.
Oh, they also want to make sure that it's a conviction that you have to do it because God said the tithe.
Well, yes.
So,
right.
So it's a manipulation issue. But the hard part about it is a lot of people don't even know that. A lot of like teachers don't even know because they've never actually researched it themselves. They were just taught you tithe, and that's what they teach everybody else. They don't do it to be manipulative or to be deceiving. That's just what they know to do, so they do it,
Right. There's a lot of distinctions to be made between how money is used. Look, I'll tell you another, not relevant exactly, but just because it's interesting. William, in churches, money flows downhill.
Okay.
Okay. They'll say, a denomination will say, hey, William, we want you to be the minister of this church. They fund the building. They fund the existence of it. They say to the minister, hey, William, you're gonna have this church for 3 years, and then you're on your own. We will help you for the first 3 years. Then you're on your own.
Okay.
And then you have to get the membership and the support and the people behind you, and it's up to you. And 2, 3, 1 year, whatever it is, down the road, the denomination is no longer giving the church the money. They're on their own.
Right.
And then the money starts going uphill, towards the denomination to pay their ministries and whatever they're doing, their mission work and who knows what.
Right.
And that's mission in the larger sense. That's not in the missionary, conversionary sense. People in the Jewish community hear the word mission and they automatically think Christian missionary trying to make everybody Christian. They don't realize that mission can be bringing food to the third world country, handing out meals or digging for water or whatever they're doing. Jews hear the word mission, they think only one kind, and that's missionary, to try to make Christians, which is maybe part of it, but it's not the only thing. Like it used to be 500 years ago. Okay.
Right.
But in Judaism, money goes the opposite direction. You've got people who get together and they say, I want a synagogue. We are coming together to create a synagogue. And then they will decide what denomination, for lack of a better term, they're going to belong to. And from that point on, they are taking part of the donations they receive and sending it up the river to the denomination. Their affiliation determines where the money for denominational participation goes. So if they're going to be, part of the conservative, reform, Orthodox community, then what makes them legitimately a part of that is that money goes up to the denomination, not down from the denomination to the local synagogue or temple. So how money works even in that regard is quite a bit different from the Christian community.
Right.
William, there's another interesting analogy that I'd like to make. And for this, I wish I had a blackboard behind me to write on.
Okay.
I originally learned this from Dennis Prager, from a lecture that I heard him give on the difference between Jewish idea of tzedakah and the Christian idea of charity. And his analogy was this, and I think it's brilliant. And it's the following. Okay. 2 dentists share a practice. And by sharing, that means that on December 31st every year, they take the total profits, divide by 2, so that each gets the exact same salary. And the fact that they're each getting the same salary isn't the point. So that's dispelled with immediately. A woman comes into their practice one day and gives the most horrific sob story you've ever heard in your life. Heartbreaking, horrible. Now, to make it easy on people, we'll call one of the dentists Dr. Mind, and we will call the other dentist Dr. Heart.
Oh, wow.
So the woman comes in and gives this horrible sob story. Her husband lost his job, which meant he lost his medical insurance, and then he got hurt, but it wasn't part of the job, so there was no recourse to the company, and they don't have the money to pay for it, and their kids are starting to act out, and just the worst things you could possibly hear. And listen carefully to how I'm saying this because it's very important. Dr. Hart, because his heart has moved him to give, takes out a checkbook and writes a check for $500. Only because his heart moved him, he gave the money to the woman. Dr. Mind hears the story, but he is not moved. However, because Dr. Mind's mind tells him he is obligated to give, takes a checkbook and writes a check for $500. They make the same amount of money. They give the same amount of money. That's not the issue. The issue is what motivated them to do the giving. Dr. Hart, because his heart moved him, he gave. Dr. Mind, because his mind made him understand he was obligated to give, gave. The question is, based on motivation, who did the higher deed? Who did the more laudable act?
You asking me the question?
Yeah, why not?
Well, I think if you had asked me the same question several years ago, I would have
Absolutely.
I would have chose Dr. Hart did the higher deed, but I think Dr. Mind actually did the higher deed.
From Judaism's perspective,
Yeah.
It is more important for us to intellectually understand that there's a God above who commands us to give,
Right.
than it is for our heart to move us to give.
Right.
The reason, quite simply, is because some people are heartless, and they will never give.
And some people do everything based on their emotions, which is also not healthy.
Because what if they have no emotions? Dr. Hart only gave because he was moved to give. What if he wasn't moved?
Right.
According to the story, the setup, he would not have given.
Right.
Look, what's the point? The point is, get the money to the woman because she needs it.
Right.
She's desperate.
Right.
Okay? Get her the money. So what is the most likely to get her the money? To wait for our heart to move us? Or to understand that even if our heart doesn't get moved, we are intellectually understand that God in heaven above has commanded us to do tzedakah and give her the donation. So in a case, and this is where I wish I had like a tic-tac-toe board, and you would see that if Dr. Mind is not moved, he still gives. But if Dr. Mind's heart moves him, he still gives.
Right. It's a win-win.
But Dr. Hart, when his heart moves him, he gives. But when his heart is not moved, he doesn't give.
Right.
So the most likely to give in any given situation is the person who doesn't wait for their heart to move them,
Awesome.
but rather intellectually understands that they are commanded by God to give tzedakah.
And those are also the ones who are most likely to survive 75 or 80 years of marriage. Because they don't base things off on their emotions. They got a commitment, they stick to it, they make it happen.
Right, that's true. It sounds funny, but it's accurate.
Right on.
Okay, look, yes, Judaism would rather your heart went along with your mind. But in cases where your heart doesn't go along with your mind, you still have recourse to the mind, which says, I understand that God in heaven above has commanded me, Stuart Federow, to give. And as such, I cannot ignore the needs of this woman.
Right, right.
And a very important thing to understand that tzedakah comes from doing the right thing, from the word righteousness. Okay? If you're in class and you raise your hand and you give an answer, the teacher will say, Atat Sodek, you are correct, you are right. And you can hear tzedakah, tzodek, you can hear the relationship between the word. It's doing what's righteous, doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
Nice.
Okay. However, and I'd have to look it up again, but as I recall, the word charity comes from the French, and the French comes from the word cœur, which means heart. So at its base, charity, I think, I'll have to look it up again, is derived from the concept that your heart is moving you. That charity comes from the heart.
Right, right, wow.
Tzedakah comes from the mind, and in Judaism's view, it's the higher thing, the higher deed.
Nice.
So, at any rate.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we might have milked this one. You see any comments you want to follow up on?
Do what?
Do you see any comments on YouTube you want to follow up on?
I was just taking a look at it. Most of them really aren't about our topic, which is fine. Whatever they want to talk about.
Right. And by the way, you guys, please, if you, I would like for y'all to send me or Rabbi your suggestions for a good show topic for next week and the week following.
Absolutely.
Even if we get 50 emails we may only find 2 or 3 good topics that we haven't done in a while, but at least that'll give us 2 or 3 shows worth of topics to deal with. So, yeah, and so. So I feel compelled to do so. I was thinking about this earlier. Actually, it was more in my mind. My mind and my heart told me to do this. So this is our, as we said earlier, our 500th episode. So here's what I'll do. I just don't know how to do it yet. I've only got a few Chumashim left. The Chumash is like the Torah with the commentary and the Haftorah that I can actually give out. But I'm going to give out probably 2 for this show, for the viewers of this show. I'm not really sure how to do it just yet because I need to do it like to give everybody a chance to jump into it. I could do it like I did before, like a long time ago. I'm gonna write down a number right here. That's what I'll do. Here we go. I'm gonna write down a number on this piece of paper right here. It's not on there yet. And then it's gonna be a number between 1 and 100, and the 2 people who guess the number closest to the number I just picked, high or low, I don't really care.
That's interesting.
We'll actually get, and I'll show. I'll show you the number. I'll tell you the number after the show.
No, you don't have to do that.
Okay, cool. But here's the thing: don't pick a number if you can already afford to buy one, because these things I have to pay to ship these out. If you can't afford one of these things, those are the people I really want to take advantage of this. If you can't afford to buy a Chumash, new about $60, used is about 30. The ones I have are used. And
what was your between? Think of a number between what and what?
0 and 100.
Okay.
So the 2 people who choose the number, and you can send me an email to knocktalkquestions@gmail. That's how you will actually send me. Just send it. You don't have to write a mushy letter or anything. Just send it and put in your number, and you can go ahead and put your mailing address in there if you want to, or wait for later.
William,
yes.
Say again where they send it to.
To knocktalkquestions@gmail.com. TENAKTALK questions@gmail.com, right? And then so send me that, and just send me the number that you choose between 0 and 100. But please, like I said, only pick a number if you cannot afford a Chumash and you don't, or you don't already have one. Okay, I don't want to send you this if you get more money than I do, because I have to pay to ship this stuff out. So, which wouldn't be hard to beat, by the way. So anyway, oh man, you know what? For any clever person out there, I hope I didn't actually give you a really clear view of that. Anyway, I may have to. Anyway, so carry on. So there you go, 500th episode. We'll give away 2 Chumashim for the viewers of this show. So send me that email to knocktalkquestions@gmail.com and pick your number. Choose wisely. Cool. Rabbi, what else? Any follow-ups, comments, questions?
Yeah, there was one here that no, I can't find it.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah, tzedakah box is out in the hall outside the shul. Yeah, it's outside the sanctuary. And like, for example, before Yom Kippur certainly services, you're supposed to give tzedakah. There's an interesting line, which has got an interesting play on words in it, that you come before God beats tzedakah, which means in righteousness, but it can also mean with tzedakah.
Right.
Okay, so
right
before services, you give money to tzedakah, so you approach God beats tzedakah, with righteousness. In righteousness or with tzedakah. So it's a Hebrew to Hebrew play on words. Okay, let's see. Yeah, give your children tzedakah boxes, not piggy banks. Military science, you're absolutely right. Piggy bank. Are piggy banks tray? No, just kidding. Let's see. There was a great question. Wait. No, I can't. Wait, give me a second.
Take your time.
Free spirit at last. I have a question about the veil that covers our eyes, heart, and lifting it. So, free spirit at last. What veil that covers our eyes? We have no veil that covers our eyes or our heart.
I
So
love
I'm not sure. So I'm not sure what you're referring to.
that. May be our next show, by the way.
Yeah, it's a great idea. But free spirit at last is going to have to tell us what veil covers our eyes or hearts and lifting it. Ho ho ho.
Yeah, I think we should do that. We should do
Well,
the veil.
but
and
free
the
spirit at last. Tell us what you're referring to.
how far up did you go? I don't see it. Oh, there it is right there. I have a question about the veil that covers our eyes. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, he says our eyes, so this is probably a Jew, not a Christian that's asking this.
Well, whoever's asking this, I'd still like to know exactly what they're referring to.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay, so I think I understand what that person is referring to.
Krista, the veil that covers my eyes is my talit I wear when I daven in the morning.
That's good. So so the veil that covers our eyes, interesting. So if they don't comment, then that's okay. Second shot.
Well, yeah, they may not be on still, so
Possibly not. So, but that would be an interesting thing. We'll look into that. Bill Smiley was Jesus of Nazareth confused with Jesus. Can you answer that question? Was Jesus of Nazareth confused with Jesus ben Ananias?
Where? In what? Bill Smiley. Was Jesus of Nazareth confused with Jesus ben Ananias? By whom? Who did the confusing? I'm not quite sure what your question is. I'm not also let's start over. I'm not also clear on the reference to Jesus ben Ananias. So, William, do you recognize Jesus ben Ananias? You recognize that name?
There is. Well, I don't know about that, but I know there's two Jesuses mentioned in the New Testament. One of them had to do with. Hold on, I'm putting a comment up real fast.
Two Jesuses in the New
Yeah,
Testament?
something. Yeah, one of them was like I can't remember. Let me see if I can figure. Let's see. Let me see. So we can find it here. Yeah, let's see.
Wait,
It may
free
take
spirit
me
at
a minute.
last, about hiding us from evil. I'm not, what,
Okay, free spirit at last. Just for clarification, I don't know if you saw it or not, but he came out of Christianity. She. So they're no longer Christians.
okay, so I'm still not sure what the veil over our eyes refers to. Yeah, Lori, see, here's the thing. It's not just not believing what the church tells you, then you have a veil over your eyes. It's a Christian New Testament reference in Galatians that says that the Jews have a veil over our minds that prevent us from seeing Jesus in the pages of our own Hebrew scriptures, and only when a person becomes a Christian is the veil removed, which is like saying that the Hebrew scriptures aren't inherently about Jesus. You have to be a Christian to see him there. If you have to be a Christian to see him there, if you have to, come to Jesus as the Christ before you see Jesus in the pages of the Hebrew scriptures, then he's not inherently in the pages of the scriptures. You have to be a Christian to put him there. So I think we just did next week's show in 30 seconds.
Okay, so Jesus ben Ananias apparently may have been mentioned in the works of Josephus, The War of the Jews, quite possibly. Around 66 A.D. was his time. I don't know much more about that. But there was another name, something. I thought there was somebody who was doing something. I'll have to go back and research it again. So, anyhow.
Did we ever find out who Jesus ben Ananias was?
That's what I just told you about. You weren't listening, were you?
No, I was reading. Say it again, William.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that.
Definitely not.
Okay, so Jesus ben Ananias, I just looked it up on Wikipedia. I'm not some genius, but although I can find Wikipedia pretty good. He was, during the time of Josephus, he was mentioned in the War of the Jews, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, around 66 AD, so, or CE, shall I say, the Common Era.
Tony the Night Owl, I had a messianic keep telling me God divorced the Jews according to Jeremiah. Yeah, keep reading in Jeremiah. God explicitly takes the Jews back. So also, yeah, at any rate.
Right on. Just for guns for you folks out there. See the size of this baby? Cool, man. Rabbi, you're gonna laugh. That's okay.
Put it down.
No,
let's talk about Tanakh.
No. We did that already. Now I really want people to see how easy of a read this is.
We did that also already.
Yeah, but I didn't show them the book. This is really cool, man.
All right. So, meanwhile, how long have we been on?
About 55 minutes. 55 minutes.
All right. So we don't have to go the whole hour. We ran out of things to say.
Yeah, let's not get on to another topic because we'll be tempted to go longer than I can actually probably go for the night. So we'll pick that up. So we have an idea for
tonight. I'm sorry, Tony the Night Owl. May I make a suggestion, which you may not like? Pick up the Bible yourself. Look through Jeremiah. Find the verse yourself where God takes the Jewish people. Excuse me, the divorced wife takes back, okay, whatever the text says there, because I get that mixed up with Hosea sometimes. But look at Jeremiah yourself, find the verse itself, so that next time that person or someone else says that Jeremiah says that God divorced the Jews, you can show them, here's the verse.
Right.
No, Lori, I understand disagreeing equals the veil, but the Jews therefore have an automatic veil because we disagree. But as soon as a Jew becomes a Christian, then the veil gets lifted because now they're looking at the Hebrew Scriptures from the perspective of Christianity, and of course, as looking at the Hebrew Scriptures Christian colored glasses, of course they're going to see Jesus there.
And at the end of the day, it's all damage control. I mean, the whole point about it is we don't accept Jesus, not because we've studied it and found out, but because we're blind, because we've got that veil covering.
Right, exactly. So, but if we took our blinders off, then of course we would see the obvious. And that's not what their New Testament statement is. Their New Testament statement is that by becoming a Christian, the veil comes off, and then you can see it there, which means it's not inherently there because you have to be a Christian to see it.
Yep, right.
So, yeah.
I find it interesting, too, that, in the New Testament, Jesus was talking to the disciples, and he was praising them because they actually got it when no one else could. But then 3 or 4 sentences later, he's like, what are you, so blind? You still don't understand? I'm like, what? Thought you said they get it, but now you're saying they don't? They don't have the Spirit? Well, they do? They don't? They do? What is it?
Isn't it funny?
So,
okay, in the narrative of the Gospels, okay, Jesus takes a certain number of loaves of bread and feeds with it a certain number of people. The very next time there's an incident, he has less people to feed, but he's got more loaves of bread and more wine on hand, and those disciples are incredulous. How are you going to feed those people?
It's like they weren't there the first time.
He's got fewer people to feed with more food than he did the last time, but all of a sudden they don't believe him again.
Yeah.
Somehow
I mean,
granted, the New Testament does not paint the disciples as being very intelligent.
Right. I mean, granted, they could have had the chronology that could have been reversed, but who knows? Could have been the first or the latter, whatever. But then they didn't believe me either time, so they were amazed at both times. So. Okay, well, Rabbi, let's call that a wrap then, and we will, you guys, remember, pick your lucky number if you don't have a Chumash and you can't afford one.
Right, and it's Tanakh Talk Questions Tanakh Talk Questions at gmail.com.
Indeed.
Right.
Awesome. Rabbi, have a great week. Thank you all for tuning in. Love you guys.
Thank you too.
We'll see you next week, same time, same place.
Also send us topics,
Yeah, definitely do that. The more topics y'all send, the more we can carry on week after week after week with good stuff. So take care, everybody. Shalom, shalom. Shuvu tov.
חשוב והכרחי להיות ביחד. איפוק זו העוצמה, ויתור זו הגדולה, השאיפה והכמיהה. אני אתה אתם תמיד כולם ביחד. חשוב מכל חשוב והכרחי להיות ביחד